Right. So, usually when you think baseball, you think big trades or, like who's going to win it all this year.
Yeah, the pennant race.
Exactly. But every now and then you get a story that's, kind of happening behind the scenes and might have even bigger implications for the league and for a team.
Yeah.
And we've got a really interesting one brewing down in Tampa Bay with the Rays.
Yeah, it's getting kind of hard to ignore all the noise surrounding Rays owner Stu Sternberg and all this talk about him maybe having to sell the team.
Yeah.
And this is way more than just like, rumors and speculation. We're talking about stadium deals and the future of MLB in Florida and a whole bunch of financial stuff that could get really complicated.
Yeah, we've been digging through a bunch of reports on this.
Yeah.
The Athletic and the Tampa Bay Times have some great stuff, and MLB Trade Rumors and Score.com always do a nice job summarizing things. So in this deep dive, we really want to figure out why there's so much pressure on Sternberg to sell, who might actually buy the team, and what it all means for the Rays and for baseball in Florida. So first things first, why is everyone suddenly saying Sternberg has got to go?
Well, the biggest thing, and this is coming straight from The Athletic, is that Commissioner Rob Manfred and a bunch of other owners are basically telling Sternberg he needs to sell the team. This isn't just like a friendly suggestion. It's like a coordinated effort to get him out.
Wow. So this is serious stuff. It sounds like the league is not messing around. And the reports we've seen say that while no sale is imminent, there are some serious potential buyers already sniffing around.
Definitely. And a lot of these groups have ties to Florida, which seems to be a huge priority for MLB. One group that really stands out involves the family of Edward DeBartolo Jr., who used to own the San Francisco 49ers, so they definitely know a thing or two about running a successful sports franchise. And they're teaming up with Joe Malloy, who used to be a minority owner of the Yankees. Talk about some serious firepower.
That's a big-time group for sure. And Malloy himself has actually come out and said publicly that he's leading this group of investors and that they're all from the Tampa Bay area. So they're not just outsiders trying to swoop in, they're committed to the community. And he's also made it clear that they'd honor the current stadium deal, which is huge considering all the drama surrounding that. Absolutely. And it seems like there's another group in the mix, led by this Tampa businessman Dan Doyle Jr. Remember him? He tried to buy the team back in 2023. So there's definitely a lot of local interest in keeping the team in Tampa Bay. And get this, even the St. Petersburg City Council chairperson, Copley Gertis, is aware of Malloy's group and seems to be on board with them. That kind of local political support is super valuable. Yeah, it sounds like things are moving in a certain direction.
Yeah.
Do we keep coming back to this stadium deal? What's the problem there? Why is it such a mess?
Well, the deal is with Pinellas County and the city of St. Petersburg. But according to the reports, the whole thing's been thrown into doubt because of some major disagreements between the Rays under Sternberg and the Pinellas County Board of Commissioners. They're just not seeing eye to eye.
Right. I remember reading about that whole thing with Hurricane Milton causing delays. Didn't that make everything worse?
Yeah, the hurricane really threw a wrench in the whole process. It delayed construction and drove up costs. And now the Rays and the county are fighting over who's responsible for paying those extra expenses. The current stadium deal says the Rays have to cover cost overruns, but they're saying the hurricane costs are a special case and shouldn't count. It's like this legal battle over fine print and who owes what.
Man, what a headache. And there's a big deadline coming up too, right?
Yeah, March 31st. Right after the season starts, Sternberg has to meet certain obligations by then, or the stadium deal might be dead in the water. And the report suggests that if this deadline passes without any progress, it'll be almost impossible to revive the deal with Sternberg still in charge, especially with all the bad blood between him and the local officials. So the big question is Sternberg going to find a way to fix this, or is he just done?
But what if a new owner comes in? Couldn't they smooth things over and get the stadium deal back on track? Maybe that's why MLB is so eager for a sale.
It seems like that's exactly what MLB is hoping for. They see a new owner as the key to finally solving this whole stadium saga. And Manfred has said he's a big believer in Florida as a baseball market. Even though the Rays and the Marlins struggled with attendance, MLB really doesn't want to see the Rays leave the state.
That's interesting considering how empty those stadiums can be.
Mm-hmm.
So if the St. Pete deal falls apart completely, are there any backup plans? Other places in Florida the Rays could move to.
Yeah, there's been some talk about Ybor City in Tampa, which has been a possibility before. And even Orlando is being thrown around as an option. So it seems like MLB is dead set on keeping the Rays in Florida, even if they have to change cities.
Okay, so MLB wants them in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But if Sternberg won't budge on the stadium and they want to force him to sell, what can they actually do? How can they make him sell?
That's where things get interesting. MLB could try to hit Sternberg where it hurts his wallet. They could reduce the Rays' share of league-wide revenue, which is currently around $60 million a year. That's a huge chunk of change for a team like the Rays.
60 million.
Wow.
But Manfred can't just do that on his own right. There's that whole collective bargaining agreement thing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Any major changes to revenue sharing would have to be negotiated in the next CBA, which is the agreement between the league and the players' union, and that runs through 2026. But the reports say that MLB could try to slip in a special clause in the next CBA that specifically targets teams like the Rays who don't have a good long-term stadium plan. Basically, they'd be saying, shape up or you lose money. They did something similar with the A's.
So that's more of a long game. What
Yeah.
about right now? Does Manfred have any immediate ways to put the squeeze on Sternberg?
He does have some discretionary funds at his disposal that he can hand out to teams, and the Rays have gotten some of that money in the past, usually a few $1,000,000 here and there. Not as much as revenue sharing, but still something. So he could definitely make things tougher for the Rays by cutting back on those funds.
It makes you wonder how losing all that money would affect the team itself. Could they still afford to put a competitive team on the field? The Rays already have one of the lowest payrolls in baseball.
Right. Their projected payroll for 2025 is only $90 million, which is already super low for MLB. So yeah, if they lose even more money, it's going to make things really hard for their baseball operations department. They might have to be even more careful about spending money on players, and they might even have to trade away some good players, especially with some big contract decisions coming up, like Ha-Seong Kim's option and what they're going to do with Wander Franco. And then there's those club options on some of their veteran guys. It could get messy.
So basically, Sternberg's stuck between a rock and a hard place. But from his perspective, why would he sell the team now, especially if MLB is pressuring him to take a low price?
Financially, it wouldn't make much sense for him. Forbes valued the Rays at $1.25 billion last year, and that number's probably even higher now. So even if MLB tries to punish him financially, it might not be as much as he'd lose by selling the team for less than it's worth. I think he'd only sell if the pressure from MLB becomes unbearable, or if he realizes that this whole situation is just not going to work out.
I can see that. It wouldn't make sense to take a huge financial hit just because MLB wants him gone. Oh, and one last thing from the reports. I remember reading about Tropicana Field getting really messed up by Hurricane Milton last fall. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, that was bad news. The damage was so bad that the Rays are going to have to play all their home games in 2025 at a minor league park owned by the Yankees. That's pretty crazy for an MLB team, and it just shows how desperate they are for a new stadium. It can't be good for their fans or their players to be stuck in that situation.
Wow. So yeah, it's a total mess. All these things are connected. The pressure to sell the stadium, drama, MLB's plans for Florida, and all the money involved. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
It really is. And
Yeah.
it all comes down to this. What do you think is going to happen to the Rays? Will a new owner be able to come in and finally build them a new stadium and give them a fresh start?
Right.
Or is baseball in Florida just too messed up to fix, even with a new owner? That's the big question we're left with as this whole saga continues.